Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause to James Swayable. I am going to let him introduce himself, and then I'm going to tell a funny story, which he doesn't know I'm going to tell.
I got two mics.
We are very far away from each other. We are. Hello! Waveable is what we should call
I
this
hear
panel.
something, but I don't see you.
All right. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm James Slezak. I'm the CEO and founder of Swayable. Yeah, let's give it up for Swayable. We've got a lot of great Swayable talent in the room here. Swayable proves the lift of your creative. It's a pre-testing platform. It lets you know in 24 hours if your creative is actually going to change people's minds, make them love your brand.
So I've known James for a long time. How long time? A long time?
I don't know. I remember being in an Uber to Cannes with you.
Okay, long enough.
About a decade ago.
Yeah, maybe too long. He's also a good friend of my wife. And I was sitting down with James, and Swayable is the company name. And I said, I got a crazy idea. What if we did those guys that do like that?
That would have been awesome.
I know. And at first I was like, there's no way he's going to say yes to this, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I think it'll be amazing. And he said yes. Sadly,
I did have a moment when I'm like, how am I going to let you down easy with this? And then it percolated. I'm like, wait a second. It's genius.
So, and it was like, don't let fake data sway you. Whatever, we were going to come up with something funny, but unfortunately, it wasn't, quote unquote, possible, according to Possible. But anyway, we still got here. So, there was something fascinating that you said to me the other day, which I didn't know, but in hindsight, it makes sense. And it was just on, and the fact that, one of the big topics here is the 99% versus the 1%. And so 99% of consumers can't even tell. So do you want to talk a little bit about kind of that research and set it up as I try to move closer to you?
Yeah, sure. We were kind of blown away by this. I mean, we do a lot of work with, I'm happy to say actually the majority of the the top foundation model. This is very intimate now, Bonin.
You want me to move over?
No, I'm kidding. But now you've lost your table.
Oh,
I think
God.
somebody should help you. We were blown away by this. We work now with most major foundation model teams that are building the underlying large language models that we all know and love. Anthropic, OpenAI, Amazon, Meta, all of these companies use Swayable to test the messages that they promote to consumers and actually to B2B audiences. So as part of that, we've got really cool skunkworks projects about how their generative AI creating new ads from scratch work. And the thing that completely blew us away was having done this first a year ago, where we worked I'll leave out the names of the particular models, so you'll have to guess. We looked at fully AI-generated ads that were shown to consumers, and we found 6% of people, up to 10% with the wrong ad, would spontaneously say, oh, this is slop, AI slop, and I hate it. And it would have a negative impact on the brand, and it wouldn't work as an ad, right? We did that again this year, again with a company that we're not going to name, using their latest stuff that's not been released yet. Under 1% of people had any idea, and the ads worked extremely well. So just within a year, it's actually 6 to 7x improvement in how much what comes out of AI can effectively just look to somebody like you've shot it.
I had this debate the other day, and then I'll jump into the real questions, but do you think that people are going to care?
I think the short answer is some do and some don't, and if nobody notices, then whether they can't care. Then there's questions around the platform's rules and the evolving ethical landscape of do you need to put a disclaimer on an ad that said it was made by AI? We don't have a position on that personally. I don't, as a human, believe it's of all the ethical issues that I care about. That's probably not in the top 100.
No, it's not. That's not what you want to say. No, let's solve this on our people.
We didn't do it for Photoshop. Are we going to do it for? I don't know. We'll decide as a community what we expect and what the consumers want. And I think we need to take their views seriously. But right now, some platforms require labeling AI product and others don't.
I actually, we worked with a client and did one of the big spots. And I actually think going out and actively saying it is, to me, very positive, personally. And a lot of the companies that are actually truly embracing it could never afford to do that. What's the difference between that and CGI?
100%.
What's the difference between that and animation?
Yeah, no one's ever labeled, oh, this photo was photoshopped, or
Right.
this car explosion was not quite what you saw.
Right, and so I think it's going to be interesting. Now, there's other ethical, when it comes to advertising, I'm kind of like, whatever, but there's other ethical components when it's like, this is your mother. No, that's weird.
But look, of course, if the consumers say, no, we really care about this and it matters to us, that's a factor. They're obviously stakeholders here, and so I think we're having a dialogue as a community about what should people rightly expect.
Right, and so what's fascinating about you is, you guys are kind of you're the more advanced, better looking version of the big guys, and faster growing. But you're also, that the creation problem is well on the way of being solved, and the big place you guys are playing is on the performance piece. And so that's still, and you're answering that question, but just talk a little bit about kind of your performance. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think certainly our thesis from the beginning here was that as it gets easier to make creative, it gets more and more important to figure out which stuff works and doesn't. When there's only one ad you can make and it takes a month or 3 months to make it and you've made it for next year's season, well, you've made it. So what do you want? The ad worked, it didn't work. What are you going to do? You've got to put something on the TV, And I remember the early days, 6, 7, 8 years ago, some brands we work with literally do like annual cycles of creating stuff and put it out there. But now when you could do 20 things in the same period of time or 100, it becomes so much more valuable and important to be able to measure the impact on the consumers. That's why that money is handed from the CEO to the CMO, is to go drive demand up, drive love for the brand up, drive consideration. It's not just to get view counts or clicks. So where's your evidence that you're doing that? Basically, that's a question that is being asked at all levels. And so, that's really why we answer it.
No, and also, we had the conversation a little bit about feedback loop. So now there's this consistent feedback loop, and I'm guessing you're seeing it speed up, right? Since you said from kind of 3 months on. Are you able to take the guesswork out of optimization, or is it still like because one of the schools of thoughts will be like, oh, you're optimizing till there's absolutely nothing. But kind of what are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the great promise. I mean, we talk about different horizons of deploying this kind of tech, and the easiest thing to do is just say, wait a second, I'm running a bunch of ads. That media is expensive. That's like more than 90% of my whole budget here. Is it working or not? Wait a second, I can figure that out and avoid the waste. That's kind of level one. That's obvious. Do it. I think there's still a large number of brands not doing it. I think the ones that are winning are. But then, yeah, I mean, horizon 2 is like, hang on a second. When we test this stuff, some of it works a lot better than other stuff. What were all those decisions we made last week or last month that went into this brief, that decided among the options that we could have made ads around? Could we have gotten some evidence at that stage? And then people start realizing you can iterate, you can loop, you can use things like prototype creative, which means showing a consumer something that you could make in a day instead of a month, and getting a lift measurement from Swable to figure out whether or not it's actually the right direction to go with your idea. Should this be a funny campaign where Danny DeVito talks about how awesome your financial services product is, or should it be a serious sort of campaign where one of your customers makes a different point? Well, there's very different paths. It's not about, what's the aspect ratio on Instagram. I mean, answer that question. What's the keyframe? What's the first 5 seconds? That execution is important, but any serious brand is running a omni-channel campaign, and it's saying something to the market. So hey, why don't we get some evidence about whether that's the right thing to say?
I thought you were going to A/B test Danny DeVito and say if he did something funny or serious, but you kind of just.
I love Danny DeVito.
Given the measurement background, I just felt.
Yeah, I'm sad to say he didn't win that experiment, sadly. The customer.
I mean, he's busy selling Jersey Mike subs. He's winning on that, in my mind at least. Call me wrong, but I could be swayed. Okay, anyway. So
we just need 1,000 of you to run a test that have to be exactly equal.
I've got digital twins all over the place.
Yeah, don't get me started on them.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me, what do you think about digital twins, synthetic data, that whole world?
Well, what do we think about it? First, we have no doubt that consumers are who you're trying to sell to, and there may be some world in which in the future agents are part of the selling cycle, part of the buying cycle, but overwhelmingly, decisions will continue to be made by consumers until all of us are well and truly 6 feet under this ground and the planet's, rotating in a different orbit. So you need to know what consumers think, and you need to know whether you're having an impact on it. I think people forget, there was a point at which we were, of course, equally excited about the internet. To this day, most CPG products are not bought on the internet. They're bought in bricks and mortar stores. So I think, it's easy to over-index on how much ChatGPT is going to go doing your shopping for you. It will never do most of your shopping for you. Write that down, mark it, etch it on the wall, will be held accountable for it. So you're going to have to appeal to consumers for the rest of your career. Are you doing that successfully or not? That cannot be answered as a measurement question by any LLM, no matter how many billions of dollars were spent on it, that was trained months ago, years ago, even yesterday, because you're dealing with a consumer in today's world right now, seeing that piece of creative with their context. So you have to do a real measurement on them. So I think when it comes to measurement, we're deeply skeptical of attempts to sell a story to marketers that that is replaceable immediately with something that pops out of an LLM that the company selling it hasn't even built and has no idea how it was even trained. Secondly,
how do you really feel?
No, no disrespect to people that are innovating, they should, but the question you have to ask is what do you know at all about the training? And unless you're literally working with OpenAI or Anthropic or one or two other foundation model teams, the answer is they don't know because they didn't train it, because they don't have $1 billion to do that. And if you talk to those two guys, they're doing tests with real platforms that are measuring on real humans. So I think there's a pushback that needs to happen about the extent to which a measurement about what consumers will buy can be replaced with something that is just sort of, trust me bro, the machine knows. That said, I think for ideation, digital twins, that kind of stuff's very interesting. I think you want to come up with great ideas, get some quick feedback, knock some ideas around. Great, that's not measurement. That's super interesting. And of course, if you're trying to analyze data more efficiently, I mean that's where we're deeply invested in our AI functionality.
Well, I'll tell you, in my house, ChatGPT is like the biggest parent in the household right now. Yeah, my wife's like, let me see what ChatGPT thinks. I'm like, really? I'm like, we'll figure it out. Sneezing? What does sneezing mean? I was like, we're good. So I don't know if she's in the audience. I still love you. Keep talking to chat. But kind of in that realm, what do you, just in general, what do you see the adoption of? So you're working with some of the guys that are up here that realize okay, and they have tech components to their business. Well, let me just say that. Are there, you said traditional brick and mortar. What's interesting about that, though, I don't know the percentage, but while they're not being bought online, we're now okay, Instacart. So there's almost this weird parallel, but it's still vast majority. But I'm just wondering, who's adopting it? Who's up the adoption curve for you guys? Is it yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you mean for rapid pre-testing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, our earliest verticals were a combination of CPGs and technology, and I think the reasons were kind of opposite. The CPG companies had the less technology going on, but they had the most immediate understanding that what the shopper does in the supermarket cart at the retail outlet is their whole business. So they already knew that when someone turns up with measurements of click-through rates and view counts, that doesn't answer anything useful for them particularly, right? So the need state was the most obvious for them. I need to lift purchase intent. I need to lift love for my brand. Clicks and likes from the platforms aren't doing it for me, so therefore this does. Second, the tech firms, I think they were just more hungry for data. I mean, they were kind of more familiar with innovation, and so coming in and saying, look, guys, you need this thing. It's a different way of doing stuff.
Right.
You need to retool your marketing team to adopt new tech. That landed in a familiar way versus, let's say, automotive absolutely has not been an early adopter. The major automotive brands we work with are themselves disruptors. So, Lucid Motors, as an example, is we don't have one of the big fours yet, but we do have the electric car companies. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that it's split, and that actually makes me, happy. But at the same time, those that are going far, or those that have been on the journey early. So I'll just give an example. We were going to play a trailer for a show that I'm doing, and my goal is to create anything in 3 hours, right? And so I've just been so immersed, and to be honest, I told people, I feel bionic right now. I could do anything. I could create another human. My daughter might be AI, I assume. I have a boy now. my next door. I don't know.
Bonin did create a human 1 year ago
right.
who shares the same initials.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I did create it. Shares the same initials. Bastion. Yeah. But at the same time, the one thing I've seen is that it gets into loops. So the thing I've learned across all the platforms is that the further you go on trying to accomplish something, the more it can't figure out a new path and it gets stuck in a loop. And so whether it's, a long thing you're trying to chat or vibe code or whatever, they get stuck. And what it just did before was kind of the only frame it can have. And even if you yell at it and say, get out of that frame, it still can't. The only way to do it is to right. The only way to do it is to restart. So with these guys that are optimizing, are they taking a moment to step back and say, are we in a loop?
I love that. I mean, part of the promise here that I'm most excited about is you can use this tech to get stuck in loops, but this is where I think the creatives have an important job, right? Because some creatives hate data and they're annoyed by people that come and measure stuff, and they're like, leave me alone, I've got a cool idea. And the conversation I love the most with them is when you say to them, you're right, you do have some cool ideas. Now we can measure stuff. Now you can try riskier stuff. Now you can try the idea that the people in the room would have shouted down, because you can say, well, wait a second, I think this is great. Let's try it and let's measure it. And this is why we're big believers in actually doing the measurement and not starting with a bunch of so-called best practices and then just applying them forever, right? No one would have come up with the Think Different campaign or the Just Do It campaign if they were required to check 15 checkboxes on best practices in advertising creative, right? Like, that was a killer idea that defined those brands and their place in the market for a generation. We want more of those ideas, and we want to prove that they work, rather than kind of put people in a box.
And I think that's, it's interesting because Xing and I had the chance to judge a creative award show on Friday and Saturday. And you didn't hear this, but Reggie Now said this. It was funny. So we were being interviewed, and he was trying to explain, like, the creative and what. He said, it's like that joke that says, how many creatives does it take to screw in a light bulb? Does it have to be a light bulb?
I don't know this one.
So but you're right, and I think that
yes, and
right, fair enough. But I also think that having seen it in the hands of people who this is their profession and their craft, there's a kind of leap they end up taking, which they don't realize, is that all of a sudden they now have a thought partner that they had never expected to have, and that you can't get exactly what you want. You can't always get what you want, but there you go. You all know it. But sometimes the response they get back is actually more interesting than what they originally had. And now they're learning that, wait a second, there's actually a flow that I can get into. And I'm guessing when you have a chance, are you interacting with the creatives as well, or? Go ahead.
Honestly, not enough. I mean, we do, but I really want to champion them. I feel like the point of our work. I mean, they are really the hero of the story. If they do killer stuff, then we get growth for the brand, and we get evidence that they've made killer stuff, and otherwise nothing works. But yeah, I mean that idea. It's interesting because, like, look, back when we started the company 8-9 years ago. There was a lot less we could do with AI, and so the magic there was just the fact that they were used to a situation where they wouldn't find out until 1 or 2 months later any evidence at all about whether they got brand lift. You do a brand lift study, you wait 1 to 2 months, right? So just the very fact of being able to see something the next day and then sort of have that moment that you just described where you are hearing from the consumers, you are seeing whether they do care, these people, they want to make good creative that grows the brand. That I think changes their role in a useful way, and I think also makes evidence less less in conflict with creativity and more a way to support it.
Yeah, and it's it's hard because I think the general concern. Well, first of all, we've talked a lot about AI, but you have a business that also operates where there's an absence of usage in creative AI. But what are you as a company doing in AI? And then we're going to move away into some other questions to introduce the tech into your product. I guess we didn't really cover
Yeah.
how your products evolved.
Well, our whole product's been built from day one around the most advanced machine learning that is possible. So I think, sometimes you get the question, how are you adding AI to it? It's like literally AI was both on
If
the
you pour a little AI, it
and
means
yeah,
you're like,
just add a little layer of AI around it. Just like plug in make a MCP for OpenAI. No. We've had like population models at the core of the product, since it was possible. We were partnered with OpenAI back before there was ChatGPT. Worked with Sam Altman because he was the head of Y Combinator that we went through just while he was doing OpenAI as a side project. So look, from the beginning, the whole idea has been that the AI is there, in our view, to do two things that are important. One is actually to help the creators make better creative. That is awesome. We don't directly specialize in that, but we partner with the people that do. The second thing it's doing is like helping human judgment. It's speeding up our ability to do analysis. And so from the beginning, when you could just use like random forest models and regression analysis to kind of get better and more precise readouts on the population, that was there. And as the LLMs began to mature to a point where you can actually start to get them to solve problems with code for you, that's been at the core of the way the product was built. So right now, the product generates its own code to answer problems and questions about the analytic results that are there, and you can both get an executive summary report that is just built directly from that code and from the layers of agents on top of it, or you can directly just chat with it, and you can say, hang on a second, I want a scatter plot of the last 5 tests I did, and I want you to focus on the Gen Z segment that drinks a lot of Coca-Cola. What does that look like?
Pepsi, come on. Oh, my. We don't know each other that long.
What is this here?
I know. Oh, fair enough. Go ahead.
I'm playing both sides of this war, the Cola Wars.
Okay, go ahead.
You can tell who's not Gen Z. Cola Wars, is that even a thing anyone talks about anymore?
I don't know.
I think that
clearly I don't know.
Choice of a new generation. We'll do the Pepsi challenge
let's
afterwards.
test it out and see if it is.
So yeah, it's an AI native platform that uses AI to speed up and to get direct access to insights from real consumers as fast as possible. It's not an AI platform that sells you a story about how the AI replaces the consumer or replaces the creative. It's a way to elevate those roles so that you can get more value from them, get to insight more quickly.
Right. Okay, we got drinks right after this, but I do want to go to the audience. We got about 7 minutes. Any questions, thoughts, answers? Shout it out. I'll repost it. Yeah, the mic's coming right now. I don't think they were ready for me to. Yeah, just ask it, Shigging. We can.
Brother, for the ad testing you did, and congratulations on all the things you're doing because it's phenomenal. Was it? Can you describe a bit more about the creative? Was it
Video.
placed
yeah.
pre-roll? Was it created, generated? It felt like authentic content.
I mean, I'll have to skirt around stuff that's confidential, but I can say, look, for the first wave of stuff, it was for a new alcoholic beverage that was being tested. So it was a launch campaign for an alcoholic beverage. I probably should be careful about what I say about the more recent stuff because it's sort of a large company that would kill me. What's that?
The placement.
Yeah, well, it was because it's pre-testing. It's not placed anywhere, so it's designed for digital video that can go in a range of platforms. Now, of course, it would need to be recut into different formats and different, even sort of ways of laying out the thing. But the most effective was for like let's just say sort of consumer electronics, and that ad less than 1% of people knew that it was AI. It was mind blowing.
Well, I was gonna ask that. I was gonna ask, and I forgot to, whether it was video. So it sounds like it was video.
It was video.
Real people in it.
People
as well, or no?
The other thing that's mind blowing as well that we've seen, it's a little less impressive, but the same ad instantly translated into multiple languages with the lip syncing and even the slight gestural kind of cultural shifts. That is nuts. That stuff, is on the cutting edge of stuff that hasn't been released yet, but where it's on our platform being tested by some of these companies whose job it is to do that. It's incredible. You see the same ad, exact same actors. They shoot it once in English, and it's in Azerbaijani, in the next thing. Extraordinary. Yeah, and if you're running a global brand, value of that is obvious. You know, you can talk to really large global brands that still just struggle with regionalizing their campaigns and managing the assets around that, which you'd think they wouldn't in 2026, but yeah.
I love it. Yep, there we go. Thank you.
Hi, hey, curious about AI-generated creative when you have the hyper-realistic human avatars in there. What are you hearing from brands? Do they care about, are these digital twins of any actually really existing people, which, you know, there's companies that will do that for you as well? Or is that, for the most part, a niche need and that avatar could be AI-generated from the ground up all the way?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I think these phrases get used for different things. I think, you know, for the companies that are talking about digital twins as an offering, I think often that it's a twin of a certain consumer segment. For the, you know, Gen AI video creation, they'll talk, as you did, about avatars and sort of, you know, actors.
I'm throwing the terms around.
Yeah, no, I'm just sort of helping, helping do my part here. Look, I think nobody really knows. I think everybody's got a budget to experiment on that stuff. I think there's other stuff which is at deployment stage. But on kind of, can we make the ads with Gen AI? I think it's fair to say that everyone sort of pretends they're a little further along than they really are. I don't think a lot of the ads we're looking at now, for example, on television, are yet Gen AI. But I think most large brands are experimenting with it, and some have. Coca-Cola famously, despite Bonin's obvious lack of being a consumer of that brand. Has famously had AI ads that they promoted, and they've been very cutting edge on this, and others are kind of holding back.
I know the guy who ran that for them.
Oh,
as well,
yeah,
so
great. No, they're extremely innovative, and they work with some fantastic companies, including OpenAI and Bain & Company, who are very close on that work. Yeah.
Okay, we also ran a spot during that year. There was only 2 big AI spots. One was ours and one was them. Anyway, one last question before we close. Okay, there we go. Okay. Oh. Thank you, Danny. Finally
Just a quick
did
question.
something.
What piece of advice would you give to companies that may be a little bit hesitant to jump into AI or are unsure of what the shift would be? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would start by laying out the landscape of different things that AI is, right? I think, there's really very few companies whose employees are not chat GPTing, anything, like whether their son is sneezing or whatever Bonin was using it for. On the other hand, there are very few AI companies that are making full ads and putting them on TV that are AI. So I think, it's like the internet, there's sort of not like, in the early days there was like an internet strategy. Every company had to have an internet strategy. It's like, okay, the internet's just a channel for a bunch of stuff you do, like, I don't know, your banking, your ads, like, what are you talking about? So I think it's sort of laying out the territories. And, look, the obvious starting point is analytics, measurement, using cool ideas to get generative, to get brainstorming done. I mean, all that stuff is low risk. Higher risk stuff is replacing core processes, obviously. So I think that's a good way to think about getting started.
I was wrong. I didn't have my timer on me. We actually have time for one more. The bar opens in 2 minutes. Who else? Anybody else? I need to buy time because the bar's not open yet. So if I get off the stage, I'm gonna be frustrated. No? All right.
All
okay.
right. Pleasure.
Let's give a huge round of applause. Thank you ever so much, James. And the 99, it's the 1% that's always the issue.
I thought this was going to be a controversial political 1%, 99%. I'm glad we sounded like an Occupy Wall Street panel for a second.